First of all, I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Might be another question. Mr. Anderson?
Yes. Shannon, what?
Heading back,
Yes.
did you see any injuries on him?
No,
He wasn't bleeding?
I didn't see anything.
At some point, did you realize that there had been some folks that were injured in the river?
Yes.
Folks that were injured in the river in the spot where he was involved in the altercation?
Laying along the side of the river, yes.
As you walked up to Mr. Miu, did he say anything to you as he came up to you?
No.
Did he ever say anything to you about what happened?
Never, we never spoke after that again. After that, everything was just quiet.
How serious were the injuries of the folks that you saw injured?
Objection beyond his opinion, I guess.
Sustained.
What did you see?
Foundation.
Oh, pardon me. What did you see as far as the injuries of the folks in the river?
Bad.
Did you call 911?
Yes, it did.
Did you call 911 more than once?
Probably about 2 or 3 times, but I'm not sure.
Why did you do that?
Concerned about the people on the edge, laying on the bank of the river.
Did you attempt to give other assistance?
No, I just went and met paramedics at the river, at the bridge, and kind of walked them back where everybody were, you know.
What those paramedics, were there some law enforcement folks too?
Yes, it were.
And I think if I understand what you're saying, you sort of directed them to where these injured people were?
Yes.
Anybody else from your group do that?
No,
You're the only person from your group that came over to help?
I think so. Yeah.
At some point, did you end up walking back to your group?
Yes.
Did anybody say anything to you about what you saw?
No.
Anybody ask any questions?
No.
Did you eventually float away?
Got on tubes and we didn't listen to no music. We just floated and just ready to get off the river at that time. We didn't want to be there no more.
Was there any kind of conversation as you're floating down the river?
Never. No.
At some point, did the officers think that you had some videos on your phone of what had happened? Had you taken some videos that day?
Yeah, I took videos, just our party together. And when we stopped, we took videos of each other, not of the, that's about it.
You didn't have any videos of this actual incident?
No, no.
Do you know how long your crew stayed in that area before floating down the river to the end?
Could have been about 15 minutes.
How long did it take you to reach the end of the trip from where this incident happened?
Probably about another half an hour. 20 minutes to half an hour.
What did you do once you got to the end?
Turn that tubes in and just prepare to go back to our cars, get on the bus and go back to our cars.
All right. At some point, was there more contact with law enforcement at the end?
Yes,
Did you witness that?
yes.
All right. Nothing else.
Mr. Nelson?
Von Williams. I've seen it written both ways.
Williams. Yeah, well, it's Eric Von Williams, yeah.
So your middle name's Von, but your last name's Williams?
Yep.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, Mr. Williams, I'm Aaron Nelson. I represent Mr. Miu. I want to ask you some questions too, okay?
Yeah,
You were with Nick that day, right?
right.
There's been some pictures that I think have been, can I get like 106 through 110, please. there's been some pictures of your party of 10 people or so on the river. Have you seen any of those photos from that day?
Yeah,
Yes.
So that's exhibit 112. You see yourself in that picture?
oh, yeah, I do, yeah.
And next to you is Nick Miu, correct?
Yep,
And in that photo, you see him wearing sunglasses, is that right?
yes,
Do you remember that day? Did he have sunglasses on most of the time?
yes,
Were there times that you saw him, you said he saw him with a snorkel and goggles, right?
yes,
And he certainly went up to look for the phone, and I'm getting to get to that.
yes.
Prior to looking for the phone, had you seen him resting in the river or using his snorkel and the goggles anytime in the river?
No,
You didn't see that?
no,
Had you seen him at times without his sunglasses on during that trip?
no,
And then here's a photo 110. This photo, you see Mr. Miu with a hat on?
mm-hmm,
Said yes?
yes, yes.
That's all right. Were there times that day that you saw him with a hat on?
Not sure, with the hat on,
Yes.
I'm not sure. I can't remember, I'll be honest, I can't remember.
Okay. Do you remember whether it was, do you remember him not having the hat on or having the hat on, or you're unsure about either?
I'm not sure about either.
Okay, that's fair. Showing you what's been marked as exhibit 111, does that appear to be another photo of your group?
Yep, yes,
Move for the admission to 111.
Any objection?
No.
111 is received.
And you see Mr. Miu in that photo there, he's got sunglasses and a hat on, correct?
yes, I do.
You're not in that photo,
No,
is that right?
no,
Okay. So sometimes people would wander off from the group maybe and do something else?
yes,
Or you're just perhaps just not in that photo, you might be just behind the person or taking a picture?
I can't remember.
Okay. In all of those pictures, we saw Mr. Miu had a shirt on, is that right?
Right.
Do you, and then, I believe when he went with his snorkel to look for the phone, do you remember, was his shirt on or was his shirt off?
I can't remember.
Did you have a shirt that day?
Yes,
Did you sometimes take your shirt off?
no,
Okay. You kept it on the whole time? Did you snorkel at all?
no,
Did you get in the water and swim?
no,
Okay. There was, your group of people was generally people my age, your age?
right, yes,
Okay. Some people were having a couple of beers?
yeah, yes,
Did you observe, were you intoxicated?
no, no,
Did you observe anybody in your group that you thought was intoxicated?
no,
Were you worried about anyone being loud or obnoxious or rowdy or anything along those lines?
no, no,
You'd said that you had, I think, and I want to really make sure we get this, you were concerned people were going to think he was up to no good, that he was a predator. You said that, right?
yes,
I want to really get into that, okay, a little bit? That's something that you had in your own mind, right? Yes?
yes, yes,
And that's a concern that you had when you learned he was going to go snorkel down the river, correct?
right,
You didn't think he was up to no good, agreed?
no, no,
You agree?
I agree, I agree,
You didn't think he was a predator, you agree?
I agree,
You had no reason to believe, based upon what you had seen him do that day, that he was preying on little girls?
no,
You agree with that?
I agree with that,
But you, like a lot of us, are able to kind of think about what are other people going to think, right?
exactly, yes,
And I would imagine on the river that day, you saw other groups of people, right?
Yes,
And some of those other groups of people appeared to be intoxicated,
yes,
and some of the, you said young people, right?
yep, yes.
And you look about my age, like, how old does somebody need to be not be considered young by you?
How, you said how old?
Yeah, so when you say young people, do you mean like littles, or do you just mean like 25 and under?
Teenagers and 25 and under 30.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
So it's not like they're young.
no,
So the people that you saw on there, you saw some people in this age group, and teenagers, 20-somethings that were intoxicated, correct?
yes,
And based upon your observations, you were kind of worried about some of those people, right?
yes,
Based upon your life experiences, you know a group of drunk young men might not be people you want to be around, correct?
yes.
And that was a concern that you had, right?
That's a concern we all had.
Sure. And that you're like, look, drunk young people, when they get together, bad things can happen sometimes, right?
Right,
And that's why you were trying to be kind of more conservative, like, let's just stay together here. Let's not mix ourselves up with these drunk young people that might be dangerous.
we had made agreement not to stop by young people, stop a little farther down the river.
And why were
Wouldn't be
you, why were you, personally, all you can talk about is you, why were you concerned about not stopping by young people?
Intoxication.
Okay, and why were you're worried about young people that were intoxicated? Do they cause problems sometimes?
They could, it's a possibility, but I see.
Do they have conflict sometimes?
It could be conflicts.
All right. Do they sometimes, are you concerned about their decision-making when they're intoxicated and in a group of young men?
I was just worried about what Nick was doing, looking for a phone. I didn't want anybody to think
Sure.
he was up to no good.
And if there were non-intoxicated people, you wouldn't be worried about that, correct?
I'll still be worried about that.
What was that?
I would still be worried about that.
But you were more worried because they were intoxicated.
Right.
And I imagine you were more worried because there's more of them, correct?
Check, Your Honor. Sustained.
You had said, I think you'd said before, we were out there with his wife and these young guys, they're quick to test us. That's what you told the police, right? I think you're talking in general, not that day, but in general, did you feel as if sometimes young men as a group are quick to test you older men?
Well, yeah, I do remember that conversation that day.
You
when the
did say
detective
that.
talked to me, yeah.
And that's because in your life experience, sometimes young men get a kick out of challenging perhaps an older guy, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. You can answer if you are able to.
Yeah, I ran into it a couple of times, so,
And
yes.
that's why you were concerned,
Yes.
right? When you saw Nick come back, is that right?
Yes.
Fair to say he was quiet?
It's quiet. Nesto grabbed Nick and walked him back, and I kept going forward.
Okay, so your interaction with Nick there on the river was very brief, right?
Nick, well, with everything that went down, me and Nick didn't talk.
understand.
You know,
It sounds like you're walking in this direction towards Nick. And then Ernesto gets there first, is that right?
right,
And then Ernesto grabs Nick and helps Nick get back to the group in some manner, right?
yes,
You don't know because you're not looking at him, right?
no,
Because you continue on in that direction to go down to see what all the yelling and the screaming is about, correct?
yes, no,
And at some point, 15 minutes or so, you eventually go back to the group where Nick is, correct?
yes,
And at that point, Nick is sitting there quietly, correct?
yes,
You don't hear him say anything, agreed?
no,
Do you make observations of his person?
yes,
He appears to be somber. Yes?
quiet, yes,
Have you heard the expression white as a ghost before?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, it did.
Did he have that look about him?
He had a look, you know. Yeah, I just say he had a look, and yes, he did.
Have you seen people when they're in shock before?
No, I personally no.
Okay. Would you know what that looked like if you saw it?
Probably would. Yeah.
You look like he was in shock.
Object, Your Honor. The foundation.
Sustained. Wait for the next question.
That's all.
Mr. Smestad, anything else? Thank you, Mr. Williams. You may step down. Thank you. Please see the witness coordinator on your way out, and she'll give you further instructions. It's 4:10. Do you have a short witness? Is there any administrative matters that we can tend to? I mean, offering exhibits that need to come in?
Yes, and probably other things we can talk about outside the presence.
Anything we can do in the presence of the jury is my point.
Oh. Not that I can think of.
Mr. Shravasi?
No, I can't. I don't think we're in that position at this point, Judge.
All right. So given the hour, I think we will simply adjourn. We'll send everyone home. I'll give you the same reminders as before. No talking about the case. Do not begin your deliberations. Do not conduct any independent research or investigation. Do not visit the scene. Do not speak with the media, the attorneys, the parties, the public about the case. And do not read any media accounts or engage in any social media accounts about the trial. We will get started tomorrow at 8 a.m. Please come back at that time, and we'll get a prompt start to the trial. Please take the jury out.
All rise for the jury.
Please be seated. We are outside the presence of the jury with the attorneys and Mr. Miu. We do have at least one illustration on the easel that needs to be marked. And I think we have another one over here. Clerk, that too has to be marked. So we have a record of what it is. Mr. Anderson, I can't remember who you used the one with the clerk. So you'll have to connect the dots for us.
That was Anthony Carlson.
Tony. Yeah, Tony Carlson.
So the Tony Carlson illustration is Exhibit 77?
Yes.
Although, yes, it was used during that. I believe I objected, Your Honor, sustained. So, I mean, you can certainly mark it, but I don't know
The objection was to drawing Isaac on there, not everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it was used during the trial, so I just want to have it marked.
Sure.
I don't know what value it will have, but I just don't want to lose sight of marking things that have been.
Judge, and I don't think I've
Used.
offered the group photo of Nicolae's group.
No objection.
Offer.
What number is it?
No, it's just, we're just labeling A. What's the small one? Right, 12A, Judge.
All right, so 12A is the blow-up of the group shot of Mr. Miu's group, correct?
Yes.
And which illustration is this?
This is the one I did with Sandy Miu. That'd be
80? Okay, I'll have that marked. All right, is there any other exhibit that needs to be addressed?
No, thanks. Well, can I ask the clerk, are there any that you have?
Mr. Strafasi, any exhibits that we need to attend to?
I think we marked them all.
Got them all?
Yep, I think so.
Is there something you wanted to talk about outside the presence of the jury?
Well, I don't know if you want to put on the record the objection there was, the discussion at the bench.
You want to make a sidebar record, Mr. Nelson?
I think it was Mr. Trofasi with the third round of questioning maybe is probably the,
No, I think the one we're talking about is Mr. Williams and his concern about Mr. Miu's intentions being misunderstood by others. We had a lengthy sidebar about that, whether it was relevant or irrelevant. And you made an objection.
I objected that it was irrelevant. Your Honor listened to arguments and eventually ruled that it was minimal probative value, but enough to be relevant, and so we did what we did.
Anything you want to add to the record, Mr. Anderson?
I think our point was there's been significant challenges against the children's credibility and that they were just, they jumped to conclusions, but then we have an adult who had the same concerns, so I think that's why we thought it was highly relevant.
And that's what persuaded me, was drawing the connection back to the Schuman group, and it validated their